Side note on Michelle Obama, can we just note how overrated she is? And like all the hype around Michelle Obama, oh, she's going to run for office. And she's just, I don't want to get into the aesthetics of all of it, but the presentation of her podcast is terrible. She's just whining all the time and she's complaining. Or again, I'm not trying to look in people's looks. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying the whole aura of it, to use a Gen Z term, is terrible. It's negative. It's just kind of her lamenting. And then she's obviously, there's problems with her daughters and all that. I don't want to get into that. But we built up on the right. Michelle Obama is going to be the hardest person ever to run against. And her book sold so many copies. And my goodness, you want to talk about the most overrated political hype of a generation? It would go to Michelle Obama. Anyway.
What if the Michelle Obama you think you know, the beloved icon, the champion of women, the relatable voice of reason, is a carefully constructed myth? For years, she has been presented as one of the most admired women on the planet. But a growing number of critics are pulling back the curtain, exposing a story the media refuses to touch. They argue that behind the flawless smile and motivational quotes lies a world of immense privilege, constant complaint, and a brand built on a struggle she never actually faced. Figures like Megyn Kelly and Charlie Kirk have dared to say what many were only thinking, and what they've revealed is a stunning portrait of a woman who may be the most overrated political figure of our time.
None other than the wonderful Megyn Kelly in the United States. Now, why is Michelle Obama whinging? She seems to always be whinging. Why are things so hard for her right now?
I know. I mean, because when you're thinking of victims of this awful world, you think of Michelle Obama and how terrible we've all been to her. This woman is a one-woman destitution derby. Every time we check in on her at her podcast, she is feeling sorry for herself.
She famously claimed she never wanted the spotlight and couldn't stand the ugliness of politics. But the moment she left the White House, she didn't retreat into a quiet life. Instead, she launched a global media empire. Her book, Becoming, wasn't just a memoir. It was a phenomenon, complete with a stadium tour that looked more like a Beyoncé concert than a literary event. She commanded stages in front of tens of thousands, under dramatic lighting, wearing designer outfits, all while speaking of her humility. Then came the multi-million-dollar deals with Spotify and Netflix, turning her family's story into high-budget content. For someone who allegedly hated the public eye, she has spent every year since leaving office chasing it with more ambition than a Hollywood starlet. The reluctance was the story, but the reality was a relentless pursuit of fame.
Awful it is to be married with children.
There are just many natural reasons why marriage, infertility, trying to have kids makes things difficult. It's like I try to tell couples, of course it's hard. Just listen to what I said, right? Like, it's probably, if you're having some issues in your marriage, it's not you, it's the process of marriage. It's just all hard, because guess what happens when it all works out right? You know what you end up with? Babies. Little people with their own sense of everything. They mess you up. You love them dearly, but they're a hassle.
What? I mean, there's something wrong with this person.
But it's not the success that has drawn criticism. It's the narrative she tells while enjoying it. On her podcast, instead of sharing insights from a life of incredible opportunity, she often sounds like she's in a perpetual state of grievance. The most jaw-dropping example was her confession that for 10 years of her marriage, she couldn't stand her husband. Imagine a former First Lady, part of a globally admired power couple, telling the world she resented her partner for a full decade because his career was taking off while she was at home with the kids. It was framed as a moment of raw honesty, but critics saw it as a stunningly negative reflection on Barack Obama, painting him as an insensitive, absent partner. This wasn't a one-off comment. It was part of a pattern of lamenting the very life that made her a global icon.
And Michelle Obama and Sheila Jackson Lee and Ketanji Brown Jackson were affirmative action picks, we would have been called the racist. But now they're coming out and they're saying it for us.
They're coming out and they're saying, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Yeah, we know. You do not have the brain processing power to otherwise be taken really seriously. You had to go steal a white person's slot to go be taken somewhat seriously.
Her sitting there just waxing poetic about him, complimenting, he's brilliant, he's a great dad, he was the greatest president, whatever a normal wife of Barack Obama would say. Every time she opines, it's something that reflects poorly on him, how he's insensitive, how he's not a talker, how he doesn't know how to relate to people, he doesn't keep the same schedule as she does, and now we're talking about you can have a bad decade in a marriage?
Megyn Kelly, of course, waltzed.
This narrative of hardship becomes even more jarring when you look at the life she actually lives. The Obamas are not just well off, they are staggeringly wealthy, with a net worth exceeding $70 million. They own a sprawling $11.75 million oceanfront estate in Martha's Vineyard, a place so exclusive it's a playground for billionaires. Yet, from this palace, Michelle speaks of fear. She worries about her daughters being profiled. Despite them having more security than most heads of state, she talks about the anxieties of being a person of color in America, a sentiment that feels deeply out of touch when you're one of the most powerful and protected women on the planet. Critics like Megyn Kelly point out this glaring contradiction. You cannot claim to be a victim of the system while simultaneously being one of its biggest beneficiaries.
I can't think of
Women who vote the way their man is going to vote. It happened in this election.
Got it. Republican women are too dumb to make up their own minds about President Trump. They did it because their men told them to. After that ridiculous, remember that ad the Democrats ran with Julia Roberts voiceover, where the women
I remember.
like secretly,
it's our little secret.
Yeah,
Yep,
this is what they think of. This is what they think of Republican women.
Of course. I mean, look, first of all, just like the embedded kind of just implied chauvinism that all of our relationships in the Trump world are like we tell our wives exactly what to do. It's like, okay, no, we all have agency, okay? Secondly, I just have to comment on this. She's really lost a step.
The questions about her story go even deeper, touching the very foundation of her ascent. In a moment of candor, Michelle admitted that she was a product of affirmative action and that programs designed to help minorities gave her a leg up. While she presented this as a story of overcoming barriers, critics like Charlie Kirk saw it differently. They used her own words to ask a forbidden question. Was she truly the most qualified person for her spots at Princeton and Harvard Law? Or did she take a slot from someone else? The accusation, however harsh, was that her entire career was built on a system designed to prioritize identity over merit. They argued that she is living proof that these programs don't just create opportunity. They create a class of designated picks who are then shielded from any real scrutiny.
Michelle Obama. I do still worry about my daughters in the world, even though they are somewhat recognizable.
And then she goes, and then you're like, why? What's going to happen to her girls if they're not recognizable? And she goes on a diatribe about the arrests that we're making of illegal immigrants. And that now we all have to live in fear, people of color, because it's a racist Republican Party that's running America now, that people of color, I guess, have to live in fear because we're all a bunch of racists who made her a billionaire and elected her husband president twice. But we're so racist, you see, we could just grab any random person of color in the street and send them off to El Salvador.
Point. But what an insult as Michelle Obama is silent on this, the stealing of women's championships from men, as if there's just like one issue that we have to hyper focus on. And the Democrat Party tried that this last November and it failed. As it turns out that there is a...
Her brand of moral authority was put on full display with her Let's Move campaign. On the surface, it was about fighting childhood obesity. In reality, it became a nationwide war on flavor. She marched into America's schools and, with the force of the federal government, dictated what millions of children could eat. Pizza, a cafeteria staple, was demonized. Salt shakers became contraband. Students across the country posted photos of their pitiful beige-colored lunches, complaining they were being served prison rations. The backlash was immense. It wasn't just about kids wanting junk food. It was about a top-down, elitist approach that assumed one woman in Washington, D.C. knew what was best for everyone. She was hailed as a health messiah, all while traumatizing a generation of students with kale chips and flavorless meatloaf.
Resilience while radiating enough luxury to fund a small village.
Today's daily dose of Michelle Obama, who has been out there trying to promote her terrible podcast that has absolutely no fan following. And she decided everything she says and does is a complaint. Everything. And so she winds up talking to Tina Knowles, also better known as Beyonce's mother, about marriage and divorce, which is Michelle's favorite topic, one of them at least. Number one is how much she hates her time as First Lady. She hated it. And number two, I mean, you could go either way, how racist the country is and how much she can't stand it. And then we're coming in, at least in the top three, is her negative comments about her husband and her marriage.
And through it all, Michelle...
She can't make fun of herself. This has been obvious for years. She's incapable of laughing at her own expense, which is an absolutely dreadful quality in a person. Like, I don't think I could hire a person who works for me who doesn't have that ability.
Craig will say that I don't let them tease me. See, we have a deal, Barack and I, in our marriage, and it started very early. It's like, I can tease you, but you cannot tease me. You know, so when he does, I was like,
It's not funny.
wait a minute. What's going on here? And he's like, I'm teasing you, right? And I was like, none of that.
Because he likes to tease.
Oh, my God, yeah. But when me, Malia, and Sasha, all of us are together, he doesn't stand a chance.
Perhaps most telling is her apparent inability to laugh at herself. In one of the most revealing moments from her podcast, she discussed her relationship with Barack and admitted to a very strange rule. "I can tease you, but you cannot tease me," she said. She was completely serious. This small comment was a window into a much larger truth. This is a woman who is completely insulated from criticism, both in her personal and public life. She surrounds herself with people who only reinforce her narrative. She can dish out critiques of her husband, her country, and society, but she is seemingly incapable of taking a joke at her own expense. It's a dreadful quality in any person, but for a public figure who preaches empathy and understanding, it's a massive red flag.
Ridiculous. And the fact that she would try to parlay this into like, I'm so scared, but also super important. But also my daughters are brown, so they're also potential victims because everyone hates brown people. Unless they could identify them as an Obama, in which case we'd be fine because everyone loves us. But as you can watch the wheels calculate in a way that just confirms everything you believed about this woman.
Ultimately, the Michelle Obama brand is protected by a powerful shield: the media. For years, any attempt to question her narrative has been immediately shut down. If you criticize her policies, you're dismissed. If you point out the hypocrisy of her wealth, you're jealous. And if you dare to question her story, you are smeared with the worst accusations possible. Charlie Kirk and Megyn Kelly aren't just offering a different opinion. They are breaking an unspoken rule. They are treating her not as a holy icon, but as a public figure who should be subject to the same scrutiny as anyone else. They are exposing the fact that the media has propped up a fairy tale, refusing to ask the tough questions that would shatter the illusion.
Aggrieved. She is immersed in a powerful and inescapable sense of grievance.
Do you think it's an attempt to be relatable?
No. She's angry. She's angry and unhappy. I've watched enough of her over the years, and then with this ridiculous podcast she's trying to launch to see she's a deeply unhappy person.
What's happening with people at that level in podcasts? What's Gavin Newsom doing?
He's running for president. That one makes more sense to me strategically. She should be in her therapist's office. Her brother Craig is not. Oh, he did?
Yeah, what do you think I should do?
I don't.
So, who is the real Michelle Obama? Is she the trailblazing inspiration from the South Side of Chicago? Or is she a master marketer who has built an empire by selling a story of struggle from the comfort of a multi-million-dollar mansion? She has perfected the art of performative vulnerability, earning sympathy and praise for overcoming hardships that most people could only dream of. She speaks of empathy from behind velvet ropes and preaches about shared struggle from private jets. The Michelle Obama brand is perhaps the most successful marketing campaign of the 21st century. The question we should be asking is not whether we admire her, but whether we've been sold a beautifully packaged lie.
At this point is probably a curated wine tasting in Napa.
The truth is, if you add it all up, even the year, if the odds were you're going to be married to your partner for 50 years and 10 of those years could be bad, you'd
sign up for it.
You'd sign up for it.
You'd sign up for it.
Right. And that's really how it works out.
Is it, Michelle? It's not. I've been married for 17 and a half years, and not one was bad. I think she and he married the wrong people.